G'day guys, the balanced data slate recently brought some pretty heavy changes to the World Eaters, and one of those changes was the Favoured of Khorne Enhancement, which got some significant changes to the way it works, but also some points reductions. I see a lot of people online saying that this is unplayable now and that you don't bother with it. However, I completely disagree. So in this video, I want to make my case for why the Favoured of Khorne is still an absolute auto-include in World Eaters armies. Let's get into it.
Look for the blood god.
Alright, so when looking at this enhancement, there's a few things to consider. One of them is that World Eaters often struggle with trading pieces, right? So one of the things that you're going to want to do as a World Eaters player is try to bring as many units to the table as you can. Instead of taking one massive unit of Terminators or that sort of thing, I highly recommend taking lots of small units, because our small units often punch above their weight. A unit of 3 8-bound is going to do so much damage, you don't really need to go a unit of 6. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about here. And one of the ways that you can do that is through our characters. Khorne the Betrayer on his own, without a unit attached, is still a very good value piece. A Lord on a Juggernaut, on his own, with no unit attached, is still a very good piece. So when you look at this, you're thinking, okay, cool, I'm going to be probably taking a Lord on Juggernaut because I want one, right? He's just a cheap, effective, tough, good unit, right? Now, when you look at that, then the taking of that enhancement becomes quite attractive, right? Because now it's only an extra 20 points, and it's going to let you, once per game, reroll your entire Blessings roll. Now, it's worth noting that they didn't change the fact that this stacks with your Berserker and your Jackal rerolls. So if you've got Berserkers and Jackals on an objective, you can roll your 8 dice. You can then, for each unit that you have, you can reroll 1 or 2 of those dice, right? Then, if you're still unhappy with the result, you can use this relic to reroll the whole lot, then reroll those again based on the Jackals and Berserkers that you have. So we've all seen the way that this works in practice. It's absolutely insanely powerful. And access to being able to do that for 20 points and additional time is really, really good value. It would be a different story if you had to take a character in order to unlock this enhancement, but to be honest, I think you're going to be taking that Juggernaut Lord anyway. So there's only a 20-point investment, and it's so good. So the other question about it is, when are you going to use it, right? Because you can only use it once now. So previously, you'd just be doing it every single time. If you weren't perfectly happy with the result, you would just reroll it. Now you're only going to get to do it once per game. I really like the idea of holding it off for as long as you can, so that if you have Angron in the list, which I still personally think Angron is an auto-include in World Eaters lists, if you have Angron in the list, your opponent now needs to know that if they kill Angron, you're going to be able to, in the turn that he dies, if you kill something in melee, you're going to be able to do it then, by spending a command point to make a Blessings roll. Then you could potentially reroll that, and then in the next command phase, you're going to make your Blessings roll then, with the potential to reroll that. So you're looking at several opportunities here to roll it, which means they're less likely to try to kill Angron. They're going to be like, no, if I kill him, he's just going to get resurrected, so they're going to go and kill other things. Whereas if you don't have this relic, then all of a sudden the idea of killing Angron becomes much more attractive to your opponent. So just the 20-point investment is a deterrent that's going to keep Angron alive for longer. Further to this, there will be some turns where you desperately need army-wide advance and charge, right? Not so much in the later game, because often you're already in combat, you're scrapping, you don't need advance and charge because you're in the fight. But there will be some battle rounds where you desperately need that. And if you don't get it, it can make your game so much harder. And having a 20-point enhancement to be able to have another go at that can actually flip games into wins. So even though you can only use it once per battle now, instead of the once per battle round that it was prior, it's still an absolute amazing relic for 20 points. So I can't stress enough how much I think this is still an auto-include. Yes, it got worse, but it's not that much worse. It's also worth noting, if you're taking this with the express intent of resurrecting Angron, like, I've played hundreds of games with the World Eaters, and I'm pretty confident to say that you generally only really need to try to do that once or twice. So, because he's not likely to die in the very first battle round, right? Because he's generally in your deployment somewhere relatively safe, and when you send him out, unless you're playing very cavalier with him, he's going to go out, he's going to kill something, but he's going to be far enough away from the rest of their threats that they're not likely to kill him in that first turn. So generally he's going to die either turn 2 or turn 3, and if he gets resurrected on turn 5, it doesn't really matter. So it really is only on that turn 4 resurrection, or turn 3 if he dies on turn 2, that's the only time that it really matters, if he comes back. So yes, over the course of the game, your probability of bringing him back decreases, but the probability of you bringing him back on that clutch turn when you actually need to bring him back is the same if you save this relic for that turn. So if you're not wasting this relic on your first turn, you're not wasting it on your 5th turn, you're waiting till, okay, he goes in, he does his thing, he dies on turn 3, the start of battle round 4, I'm going to try to resurrect him, and I have the enhancement. Well, it hasn't actually had any negative impact, the fact that you can only do this once. All it means is that in previous turns you may not have got advance and charge because you were saving the relic to be able to resurrect Angron, or it might mean that, you're not getting him back on turn 5, but to be honest, who cares? If he comes back on turn 5 and has to go for a 9-inch charge, that's not super relevant anyway, or, maybe he comes back on turn 5 and you rapid ingress him and he goes in and he kills one thing. That's very rarely going to flip the game. So, yeah, I just wanted to sort of share that with you guys and share my thoughts that I think if you keep playing with that Favoured of Khorne relic and you just be a little bit more conservative with it and plan when you're going to use it, I think you'll find that this change is not a significant negative impact to us, and the fact that it got cheaper just makes this even clearer that this is an auto-include relic. I think it's fantastic, I think it's more or less unchanged, and I personally look forward to resurrecting Angron even through these changes. It's also worth noting when it comes to resurrecting Angron that we did get a points decrease on the Lord of Skulls, and the Lord of Skulls massively improves your chances of resurrecting Angron, because now instead of requiring 3 6s, you're often going to require 2 6s and a 5 or 6, which is very, very good. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think I'm out of line? Do you think that this is game over for the relic and that it's not worth taking anymore? Or do you still plan to include it in your lists? Do you have any plays and ways that you know to use this relic more effectively with these changes in mind? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you want to show your support for the channel, head over to blogforthebloodgod.com. We've got merchandise over there that helps towards funding this channel and allowing me to improve the quality and frequency of the content. So make sure you check that out. We've got dice and t-shirts and objective markers and battle mats and terrain. We've got all kinds of cool stuff over on that website. And also, if you want to join our Patreon and Discord community, check that out. We have lots of really good conversations in there. Really cool bunch of dudes. We talk strategy, tactics, army lists, upcoming tournaments, those sorts of things. And if you want to join one of the higher tiers, we do one-on-one phone calls. So that's a really good way to improve your game by having conversations where we can nut out any challenges that you might be facing. So yeah, I look forward to chatting to you guys in the comments section below and potentially over in our Discord community if you choose to join us. All right, cheers guys. See you in the next one.